Sorry, boys, you invited this into Illinois. If the governor and Mayor Johnson can't or won't solve this crisis, the Illinois House Republicans have solutions and will lead on this topic.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Terry Martin with the Illinois Channel, and I'm joined by Jeff Berkowitz of Public Affairs TV. And Jeff, that was Toni McCombie, the Illinois House Republican leader, and she had a press conference this week, and she was talking about the impact of the governor and Mayor Johnson of Chicago's sanctuary status and their non-cooperation on reporting how much it's costing. She pointed out that an illegal alien had killed a citizen of Chicago just recently. And let's listen to a longer bite, and then we can discuss that, of where she had this press conference that she says the Republicans are going to be holding the administration of Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson responsible for their sanctuary policies.
How much is this policies truly costing Illinois taxpayers? How many illegal immigrants, non-citizens, have faced criminal charges and been released? How many crimes are connected to these illegal immigrants, non-citizens? How many incarcerated individuals in Illinois have an ICE detainer? What is the governor and Mayor Johnson's plan to address the crisis?
Jeff, I want to get your comments on it, and but first let me point out, we just posted this at the Illinois Channel yesterday, I believe, and you can judge when we put something on YouTube how popular something was that we posted. I just want to share with the audience, that video, this press conference that ran about 10 minutes, has already received over 23,000 views and close to 500 comments. And so far, Jeff, it continues to grow. What's your comments that you have as far as this Republican House members taking on this issue and holding the governor and Mayor Johnson accountable?
So Illinois GOP House Leader Toni McCombie has stumbled on something of tremendous importance to the nation and to the Illinois GOP. People give a damn about illegal immigration, and they especially give a damn about the high costs that Illinois is incurring as a result of that has been buried by its mayor, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, and by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who wants to be the next president to succeed Donald Trump. And the point is, Pritzker, a lot of people haven't heard this outside of Illinois, inside of Illinois. Pritzker's coming up a big tax increase he's going to be touting in 2026. As he runs for re-election, he thinks he's not going to have major opposition, so all is good. Well, maybe he's wrong. We'll get to that in another show. Maybe there will be major opposition. Do you really want to run, JB, on a big tax increase that you've caused? Because now, people haven't heard this. One more thing, Terry. People haven't heard, unless they read wire points, that Illinois is looking at a $23 billion deficit spending total cumulative over the next 5 years. If you're going to have $23 billion in deficits because J.B. Pritzker has grossly increased spending before and coming up, then you're going to have to raise taxes or cut spending. And like the Democrats nationally, Pritzker does not want to cut spending, so he's going to have to say, well, we have to raise taxes. How's that for news?
You know, also this week, Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General for 8 years in Florida, became the U.S. Attorney General. And let me share with the audience here. This is a headline that we had in the New York Post on February 6th. Trump administration shoes Chicago, state of Illinois over sanctuary laws and vows more lawsuits to come. So yeah, Toni McCombie was on track there as far as bringing this up as an issue. And here's a bite from that article that said the lawsuit will put a spotlight on the obstruction by state and local officials, their refusal to support the administration and compliance with the law. The law says that people who are here illegally are not allowed to stay. They should be deported. So we want to make sure that those impediments are taken away. And of course, they acknowledge there that the law or the Supreme Court may get involved here, but Jeff, the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution says the U.S. Constitution is supreme over what happens at the state. So the governor and Mayor Johnson cannot argue, well, that's the law of Illinois, and we're going to ignore the fact that you can't, that you have to follow immigration law passed by the Congress and enforced by the president. So give me your take as a former lawyer.
Well, the point is, as you've just said, federal law is supreme, the supremacy clause. To the extent there's a conflict between state law and federal law rules. The Illinois governor is trying to say, no, there's Illinois law and the feds have to respect our law and we respect theirs. He says, we're not obstructing, we're not impeding, we're just saying we don't want to participate in having Illinois police, Chicago police, helping with helping the ICE, Immigration Control and Enforcement. We don't want to help ICE have access to these illegals and remove them and deport them. He says, that's your job, okay? That's not us. And the feds say, no. These are laws. You're law enforcement. You should be, when we come to you and say, we understand you have somebody there, they're illegal, detain them and keep them in your jail. Let us know. We'll come pick them up. They don't want to do it. That's cooperation. Let them out, okay? There you go. So the courts are going to decide, and ultimately that could go to the U.S. Supreme Court, Terry. And how do you think this U.S. Supreme Court will decide that? Not in J.B. Pritzker's favor. He's making the wrong bet. It's going to hurt his chances for the presidency, and it's bad politics and bad policy.
You know,
and he should know. One thing he should know, because people might forget.
I'm sorry,
J.B.
Pritzker, Governor Pritzker.
J.B. Pritzker. He should know because why? He went to law school. He completed law school at Northwestern. Never practiced worth a day, but his name is up there at the head. It's not Northwestern Law School. It's Pritzker's Northwestern Law School because he gave him a few $100 million, so they put his name on there. So JB, time to take a look back at the law and what you learned in law school. Okay?
You know what's interesting, and you have to, in the discussion of governing, there's always politics involved. And politics is not coming in just when we have an election. Right now, the House, in the Illinois House and the Illinois Senate, the Democrats have a supermajority, which basically means they don't need one vote from the Republicans to pass whatever laws they want to do. And they've got a Democratic governor to sign those bills into law. But, as I just mentioned, the popularity of which is a massive surprise to me, of that Tony McCombie press conference with over 23,000 views in 24 hours and nearly 500 people taking the time to comment. This is the kind of thing, if that touched a raw nerve, and if that were to build, then those House members, those Senate members on the Democratic side of the aisle are at some point going to have to start paying attention and saying, you know, maybe this is something that I don't want to lose my seat over. And let me just say something that we showed you last week. This was a poll taken sometime after the election, that the voters' opinion, this is nationally, of the Democratic Party is overwhelmingly unpopular. And I don't know that the Democrats, as they have been arguing at the national level, have been doing anything recently to stepping away from the unpopularity of the Biden administration. In fact, what we have seen on other issues this week, and with the Trump administration going at warp speed, there's so many other issues. But it seems like the Democrats, instead of pivoting as a party, are still embracing the arguments they made in the Biden administration, which, as I just showed you, were overwhelmingly unpopular. And obviously the Republicans swept the election and both houses of Congress. So I think maybe the Republicans, maybe not, but maybe the Republicans in Illinois will no longer be a forgotten party.
Well, yeah, and coming up very soon in our show, and we're getting to it, is that there's the Democrats, you just referred to them as essentially in search of an issue. People are saying, where are the Democrats? The Republicans are just rolling over, you know, And there is Donald Trump doing what he wants, getting away with it. His aide, his colleague, Elon Musk, who's not been elected, Dem say to anything, he's getting his way. And Democrats think they've discovered that Trump's pretty popular now, so they don't want to attack him too much. But they think Elon Musk is not popular, so that he is their target. We'll find out if Doge and Elon Musk is as unpopular as the Democrats think. And the other thing, Terry, you have stumbled on big news with Tony McCombie, the Illinois House GOP leader, and she stumbled on a big issue, illegal immigration. People are upset about that across Illinois, and they're upset about the cost, roughly estimated at least $2 billion, maybe more, a year. So it's a significant part of Illinois' growing budget from 53 to 56 billion. You throw another 2 billion in there, and as Ev Dirksen used to say, billion here, billion there, before you know it, you're talking real money. And the other thing, last thing, Terry, I may get in trouble for this, but in addition to that news that Tony made, she's got a new hairdo. New hairdo. Looks pretty good. There you go. You stumbled. You're breaking that news too, Terry. Okay.
You know, here's the thing, as I said, not only will the Democrats at some point, or at least they may want to, pay attention to the outrage that's being displayed on this sanctuary status, but as you mentioned, with this massive deficit within the state of Illinois, we're not supposed to be running deficits as a state. We're supposed to be having balanced budget. The governor has said that, you know, he's proud that every year he's been governor, they have had a balanced budget. But with the deficits facing the state, and so much of that being contributed, not the majority, but to the extent that anything like illegals in here that are being sanctuary by the state of Chicago, state of Illinois and Chicago, this is where the people are going to say, wait a minute, I'm being priced out of my home by the property taxes, by the state taxes here and there, and all the charges, and then you want to go and spend money on these people being here illegally when the Trump administration's trying to get us back to enforcement of the border laws, get us away, as the Attorney General said, we're going to lose revenues coming from the federal government because she's not going to give sanctuary cities and states federal money if they're going to be in violation of the law. You know, the rubber is going to meet the road on these issues, and the fact is it's dollars. And let me insert here a big issue this week that we really don't have much time. There are so many other issues. But this week, President Trump had an executive order. He had a press conference where he said no more biological men can play in women's sports. I don't care how you identify. And what happened? The next day, the NCAA changed their rules so that they coincided with the president's order, and no longer will biological men under the NCAA be allowed to play in women's sports. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is because they wouldn't be getting, if they hadn't changed, the NCAA would not have been getting any of the federal funds for Title IX, which funds women's sports. And so once you put, and I'm drawing a corollary here to the state of Illinois and the state of Chicago, if the Trump administration starts cutting off federal funds because they, the state and the city, are in violation of federal laws vis-a-vis these sanctuary laws, maybe the governor, maybe the mayor, and maybe the lawmakers in the legislature might start to have a change of heart, as the NCAA suddenly did.
Well, and perhaps as important, if Donald Trump and these policies of especially going after gangs, illegal immigrant gangs that are here in this country, for illegal immigrants engaging in illegal activities, if he's successful in rounding them up, putting those people, even before they're deported, detaining them, removing them from civil society, deporting them, sealing the border so they don't come right back in, people are going to start noticing a decline in crime attributable to these illegal immigrants who are not here to work, but to engage in illegal activities. And if they notice that improvement, Donald Trump and the Republican Party are going to get a lot of attention, and they're going to benefit from that policy. So sometimes good policy is good politics.
Well, exactly so, and I've argued the same thing. You know, if you champion something that is the people are for, good policy is good politics. You get support. What confounds, I think, a lot of viewers, I would say, as I kind of mentioned earlier, Joe Biden was not popular. He went out at something like 37%. This would have been a great moment for the Democrats to have turned their back on the Biden administration and move on. They didn't do it. I would draw also, this reminds me, they did the same thing after the wildly unpopular Jimmy Carter went out of office. And what happened? Their nominee, Walter Mondale, who had been vice president under Carter, he was the nominee for president in 1984, and the Democrats lost 49 out of 50 states. So it behooves, it seems to me, the Democratic Party at the national level to move more towards the center. And you and I have talked about how Bill Clinton, who's certainly a master politician, after that loss in 84, after the loss in 88, Bill Clinton was trying to get the Democrats to move more to the center. And then, in fact, he benefited it by being elected president in 1992.
Well, and just let's interject something that we've been talking about before. We can follow up just in a minute or two. That is, where are things in terms of Donald Trump's cabinet? We've been talking about some of the confirmation hearings, some of the more controversial confirmation hearings. But let's not lose sight that by my count, at least a dozen, perhaps more, of Donald Trump's cabinet has been confirmed. Let me just mention quickly: Pete Hegseth, DOD, once thought to be in trouble, confirmed. John Ratcliffe, CIA, once thought to be in trouble, confirmed. Kristi Noem, DHS, confirmed. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, confirmed. Noem, of course, DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Pam Bondi, Attorney General, confirmed. Chris Wright, Department of Energy, confirmed. Doug Burgum, Interior, confirmed. Scott Bessent, Treasury, confirmed. Mike Waltz, I think he's confirmed at NSA. I just haven't heard so much about that. Scott Turner, HUD, confirmed. Sean Duffy, Department of Transportation, confirmed. Doug Collins, Vet Affairs, confirmed. Lee Zeldin, I think again.
He's confirmed.
I'm not sure. Okay, confirmed, EPA. And so what does that leave us? And next week, coming out of committee, which is really important.
And this week, you have...
Now, let me just finish. Coming out of committee this week, Kash Patel, FBI, Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, Director of National Intelligence.
And those right there, those two were probably two. Well, and the third one. What's the third one?
The third one, RFK Jr., Health and Human Services. Those three were thought to be in doubt. I said, but I thought all three might clear. Well, they all three cleared their committee. I think
we got to move along here. We're certainly questionable.
So next week, all I'm saying is next week, I think there'll be hearings on those three, and at that point, then you'd have 16 members of the cabinet.
And they're moving faster than they did in the first Trump term, and they're moving faster virtually than any other recent administration. So again, the government's moving with the Republicans in control of the Senate. They're moving at Trump's warp speed. Jeff, moving along here, I want to bring up one of the big stories this week is Trump and Musk, his Doge, right? They looked into the USAID and found not only here, this number here, $236 billion in federal improper payments does not apply just to the USAID. It actually applies to 5 other projects. But the USAID, Jeff, as people have been hearing, when Doge looked into that, they have found all sorts of spending that would be hard to justify if you took a vote in Congress. But this agency, and this is where the administration of Trump is looking into government waste, and they're going to continue to look at other agencies, but just in the USAID, international development, they have found all kinds of questionable spending that I don't think any member of Congress or very few ever knew was going on. Let's take a listen to a bite from Joe Rogan's show, a very popular podcaster, as he went through some of these spendings.
And this is off the Jesse Waters show. USAID, $20 million for Iraqi Sesame Street, $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes, $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash, $27 million to give gift bags to illegals, $27 million. $330 million to help Afghanis grow crops. Crops. I wonder what those crops are. What's their biggest crop, Brett?
It's going to be the poppy seeds for bagels, I'm thinking.
$200 million on an unused Afghani dam, $250 million on an unused Afghani road. This is wild.
So Joe Rogan points out a lot of the waste that USAID, U.S. Agency for International Development, is known for. This agency was started about 60 years ago, I believe, in the Kennedy administration, had a lot of good intentions at that time. And I'll just point out, it was a 10,000 person agency, I think $40 billion in budget. And Rogan points out a lot of the waste, of which is not defensible. But let me just point out, they're not abolishing this whole agency. There are some good programs. Dems will point that out and say, oh, we're losing it. No, it's being folded into Secretary of State. And so the point is,
It's
those are
being
good
folded
programs.
into the State Department.
Yeah, right, under Marco Rubio. And the point is, if you have bad programs, they persist. And they're stupid, they're not helpful, they're not part of the U.S. policy. Now those programs will be terminated, but the good programs won't. This is completely acceptable. This is not unconstitutional. This is the way government is supposed to work. And if this was necessary in order to get that control and to repurpose this agency in a good way, well, then I think that would pass constitutional muster. So that's the point.
And I think, Jeff, by the way, I mean, let me underscore what you just said. The fact is this agency was out there unattached. Now they're going to be part of the State Department. No one was overseeing them. And in fact, when the Doge team showed up, initially, the head of the USAID was refusing to cooperate, said, we don't answer to the president. Well, they found out very quickly they do, and their staff of 10,000 is now going to be reduced, according to reports, down to about 300, but be part of the State Department, where someone, I'm sure, is going to be assigned to reviewing any spending that they are doing before they do it.
Right. Under Joe Biden, who controlled a lot of Congress, even though the Republicans had the House majority, Democrats had the Senate, and they prevented a lot of the oversight that Joe Biden's Congress should have been exercising. So now we're seeing some of that oversight getting exercised because Republicans have the majority in the House and in the Senate, and they can go ahead. And with the cabinet that I just referenced, largely confirmed, we will see kicking in. We are now in day 18 of the Trump administration, 2.5 weeks. Now that the cabinet's there, much of this oversight can be turned over so that the cabinet can work with Congress to see that these things, this waste, this inefficiency, DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, gets corrected.
I might want to come back to that, but I want to play this bite by James Comer. He is the House Chairman of the House Oversight Committee. It's his committee that looks into how are these different agencies of government operating, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And he kind of makes the point not only of the waste, but of some of the people on the Democratic side of the aisle who are still defending what has been going on.
One byproduct of this inefficiency, according to GAO, is the near $250 billion in annual improper payments the government issues. Over the past few days, we've heard wild claims from Democrats that we are, quote, at the beginning of a dictatorship, end quote, and we are in a constitutional crisis. This kind of theatrical rhetoric is exactly what the American people rejected in November. Americans know that Washington needs reform, And DOJ is taking inventory to bring about change and steward taxpayer dollars entrusted to the federal government. Real innovation is not clean and tidy. It's necessarily disruptive and messy. But that's exactly what Washington needs right now.
And Jeff, I would say, the USAID is just the first of many things coming up when the Trump administration start looking at all these different entities. So I think people ought to be paying attention because you and I are going to be discussing these in details.
Big clash, we'll just say, we'll come back to it next week, but big clash going on right now, just written about in the Wall Street Journal, and we're taping this on February 7th. In today's Wall Street Journal, people can read about this tremendous clash going on between Democrats who are trying to maintain the status quo Department of Justice, FBI, which folks have already been very, very politicized under the Biden administration. Democrats are saying, oh, Trump is going to politicize. No, it's already been done. He's trying to correct the politicization. But now we're going to see, because there's an interim U.S. attorney appointed by Donald Trump in District of Columbia. So that's where this is happening. And he wanted a list of 5,000 people, DOJ and FBI, I think mostly at FBI. They've already caused a lot of the folks who the Republicans view, Trump views, as politicizing DOJ. They're gone. Now they're looking at FBI, list of 5,000. They wanted the names. They didn't get the names, but they got titles and locations. And this is not just in D.C. This is across the country. So this is a major matter. Are these people doing appropriate work at DOJ and FBI, or have they been politicizing? We'll see that discussion next week.
I think in the larger context, I want to add the federal government has not been doing the job that they were supposed to be doing. They have been just for years, not just in the Biden administration, but for years, the Congress has not been passing budgets. They're supposed to pass 11 different bills, and that constitutes the federal budget. And when you have the different committees going through the bills that are assigned to them, whatever those are, that's where the members of Congress, members of the Senate are supposed to be looking at the spending. Are we spending appropriately? And instead, they've been passing continuing resolutions where you just dump everything into one massive bill, and no one in Congress really knows. There's not one member of the House or Senate who knows all that they're spending. And that's where we find this kind of waste and abuse by different agencies who are getting billions of dollars sent to them. And let's put it in the context that our national debt has skyrocketed, and we are paying in interest payments every year now, more in interest payments on our debt than we pay to have the Pentagon funded. So it is about time, whatever side of the aisle you're on, that we get a handle on what we're spending so that we are not wasting money. We need to start paying down the national debt, and that means tightening our belt. If we can cut out wasteful spending, well, then that's a lot better than having to cut out some things that we all agree we want.
Let me headline one other point. DOJ and FBI have not been spending a lot of time on violent crime and almost no crime on illegal immigration. That's going to change, and change now under the Trump administration, and there's going to be a clash about that. But you can't accomplish what Trump wants to do on illegal immigration without a lot more resources, and a lot of those resources, if he has his way, are going to come from DOJ and FBI. And he's going to say politicization has already happened. He's going to reverse it. The Dems are going to say, no, you're politicizing. So we'll find out who's right there.
Well, we see it. And now looking ahead, we're going to be looking at Kash Patel, Bobby Kennedy Jr. at HHS, whether these people get confirmed, and who is the third one I'm dropping here that was in question? Tulsi Gabbard.
Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK.
Now, what Tulsi's doing is going to be behind the scenes more, but we'll see. Folks, we got to go. Thanks for watching. All kinds of news coming up. Listen to Jeff and I. We're going to be telling you stuff that you may not be hearing in some other places. Leave us your comment, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.